So, do you consider yourself someone a little anxious when it comes to dating? What if I said you're not anxious? You're overthinking because you're trying to create a sense of certainty, which your body receives as safe. So, this is part one of a 4-part series. There are different patterns that we have in dating, in relationships. And I'm someone that was in a marriage for well over 20 years, and I've been single for over a couple years now. And so these patterns can take shape in either of those scenarios. But today, I want to go over one archetype in particular and 5 different ways this pattern can show up with this one particular archetype. There's 4 archetypes, but we'll do one today. So the first one, the first pattern that you might notice, so kind of check in to see if this is you. You read into everything. So you get a text message trying to figure out what it means. Maybe you put it into your AI and you're asking AI, hey, here's the context. What does this mean? Right? A lot of overthinking, overanalyzing. You send it to your friends. Hey, they said this. What do you think this means? So you're replaying it, right? Because your nervous system is seeking control through analyzing and oftentimes overanalyzing. So that would be number 1. You read into everything. Number 2, any type of mixed signal, it just consumes you. It takes over. You can barely focus on your day-to-day things. You're like, one day they were consistent, another day I don't know if I can read them. I can't tell. Are they falling out of love with me? Are they interested in me? I don't know. And so while other archetypes can just kind of shrug it off, they don't really pay much attention, you are constantly trying to make sense of what doesn't make sense. Because uncertainty just doesn't feel uncomfortable. It literally feels unsafe, right? So our nervous system adapts to certain things from our upbringing, from our childhood, and things that get registered as safe or unsafe. And so if we were in environments that were changing a lot, we're trying to protect ourselves by number 3, creating a story. So you come up with a narrative before you even have all the facts. Because if you know what's going to happen, well, then you can be safe. At least that's what you think, right? If I know where this is going, then I can protect myself. So I don't care if they're going to break up with me or we're going to go out again. I just need to know. So you're constantly seeking clarity, information, understanding. This is a way that your archetype shows up under stress. All of these are under stress. They may not be who you are naturally, but how you show up when you're stressed out, especially in dating. Number 2, you confuse complexity with compatibility. So actually, the more complicated they are, the more you have to figure out, the more excitement it brings to you. You don't even realize you're excited about it, but every time you're like, I have to figure this out, there must be something worth having here. Because if it's simple, if it's easy, you don't even trust it. You actually will sabotage if something is simple, easy, non-dramatic, non-chaotic. So the more complicated, the more you get to figure it out, which then creates a sense of safety for you. And then the first one, or the last one, depending on what order we're going, would be that you intellectualize your feelings. And so this could look like you're intellectualizing your feelings and not trusting your feelings. So you have to understand something before you take action. So instead of, wow, like my intuition's telling me that I should reach out. Like it doesn't matter if I look like I'm overextending or simping, like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I feel like the right thing to do is reach out. That would be trusting your intuition. But instead of that, it's, well, no, if I do this, then it means this. And so now you just override your instincts because you're constantly living in your head. Everything is intellectualized. And then when it comes to being in a relationship with someone and you're under stress, intellectualizing your feelings looks like being able to talk about them, but disconnected from actually the feeling, disconnected from how it feels. Because you can talk about something and not feel what you're talking about. So those are the top 5 patterns for this particular archetype. You read into everything. You really struggle if something doesn't make sense, if they're giving you mixed signals, you're making up stories to fill in every gap because it has to make sense and you want to protect yourself from being hurt. You love when things are complex and you've got to figure it out in relationship, and you rely more on your analytical mind and all the stories it's coming up with than you do trusting your instincts. Those are the 5 patterns for this particular archetype. I don't know. Do they sound like you? Have you taken the energetic frequency archetype quiz yet? If you haven't, check out the link. This free quiz take you 10 minutes or less. Will give you information on how you naturally show up in relationships, in your career, when you're not stressed, and then how you naturally show up when you are stressed. And then, we can talk about what you can do about it. All right, I'll see you in part 2 when we get into the next archetype and how that pattern shows up in dating.